Hi friends! If we haven't met, my name is Rebecca, and today I'm here to teach you about nature journaling as a tool for ecological re-story-ation. My thinking on this has been inspired by this quote from Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. It's not just the land that is broken, but more importantly, our relationship to land. We can't meaningfully proceed with healing, with restoration, without re-story-ation. In other words, our relationship with land cannot heal until we hear its stories. But who will tell them? A few weeks ago, I sent out an email asking for your top questions about re-story-ation, and I was honestly blown away by the response. So many of you asked really thoughtful and insightful questions. So I thought I'd create a video to teach you a little bit more about nature journaling for ecological re-story-ation. First, I'll explain a little bit about what this concept means and why it's important to me and why I think it might be important to you too. And then I'll share a simple nature journaling activity that you can use to take the first step toward re-story-ation. So I first read about this concept when I read Braiding Sweetgrass 6 years ago, and it completely changed the way I think about environmentalism. All through college, when I was studying conservation biology, to the work that I've done since then, this concept has completely captivated me. Despite all the things that fascinate me about nature, not to mention all the environmental challenges facing our world right now, it's this idea that's been the burning question for me, the thing that keeps me up at night. I've been in love with this idea of re-story-ation for so long, but I always wondered, how do we actually make it happen and put it into practice? What does it actually look like? This idea is at the core of everything that I do, why I teach the nature journal writing workshops, why I worked for Wild Wonder, why I taught for International Nature Journaling Week, and yet I've never talked about it directly before. I feel like I've been dancing all around it, but now I'm going to teach a brand new course where we focus on it directly. But a lot of you wondered, how does my nature journal practice make any difference? And how does re-story-ation lead to re-story-action? I've come to believe that nature journaling has the untapped potential to be one of our biggest forces for re-story-ation. Ecological restoration and habitat restoration projects of the physical environment have to start with the knowledge of what the current conditions are like. And nature journalers, we're the ones who are out there observing what's going on, the ones gathering evidence and stories that we can share with others. We're the ones who get to know a place so well that we notice what's not there. We notice who goes missing. And there are so many aspects of nature we're losing out from under our noses because nobody really notices that they're gone. And this idea of re-story-ation also reframes environmental issues from this misanthropic perspective that people are bad, to realizing that we are a part of nature, and we're the ones who can listen to the stories of the land. The earth needs us right now. So what will we cover in the course? Week 1 will be about how to be a story catcher. How do you tune in and notice the stories going on around you and begin to share them with other people? It's actually really important to share our stories in order to process them for ourselves, to digest them, to make meaning, make a personal connection, and deepen our scientific understanding. The nature journal process really isn't complete until we've shared our stories with someone. But it's often hard to know who we can share with and who will be receptive to the stories. So in this course, you'll have a community here that you can share with, but you'll also learn how to cultivate that community in real life so that you can continue to share your stories into the future. The second week will be about the web of life. Ecology as the system of relationships that takes place in space. So we'll examine the ecological connections between different parts in the system, different organisms, and we'll make maps and think about our connection to this system too. The third week will be about intergenerational nature stories and reclaiming our nature heritage. As I mentioned, we're losing a lot in nature without even noticing it. In conservation, this is called the shifting baseline syndrome. We assume everything that we see is normal and healthy, but we might not realize that actually a lot has changed since the last generation. So in this class, so the third week will be about reconnecting to those intergenerational connections in the places that we live. And it'll also be about heritage species, species that are important to cultures, either to our own heritage, to indigenous peoples, and also how can we designate species to create a new nature heritage, if that's something that doesn't really exist for us in the culture that we have right now. In the fourth class, we'll take a look back at all the stories we've told so far and learn how to use the elements of fiction and storytelling, like plot and character, to enhance our observations, so that they're not just a scientific list of observations, but they're a little more compelling, and it can be a story that we can add to sort of our personal mythology. It could be a story that we tell again and again, about how our observations helped us learn something about the land or the creatures around us, or helped us learn something about ourselves. Any story that's meaningful to you and that you can share with other people. And finally, the last week will be about our future ecological vision. So we've paid attention to everything that's happening right now in the present. We've taken a look back into the past. And then we'll focus on how everything we've learned can shape the future of the place where we live. How can we use our imagination and knowledge to imagine what we want the future of our place to look like? How can we maintain or improve the conditions of the environment around us? And this is where it turns storytelling into action. We'll focus on some things we can do where we are right now to make a difference, and how we can work with the community that we've been cultivating to take a first step towards this future vision. There are also a few bonuses included in the class. First, you'll get a free online community, a private Facebook group where you can ask your questions, share your stories, share your nature journal pages, and I'll be in there regularly to give feedback and to interact with the class community. You'll also receive recordings of every session that you can watch later. And as another bonus, there will also be an end-of-course community celebration where we share our future ecological visions, what action we took, and what steps we want to take next. And that will give you some momentum to keep going after the course ends. I'm really excited to dive into this course focused specifically on nature journaling for Re-STORY-ation. And this isn't just for experienced artists or nature journals. If you are an experienced artist or writer, you'll be able to apply those skills while you bring this new dimension to your nature journaling. But this is also for you if you've never tried nature journaling before, if you're brand new to it. This isn't an art class, and it's not exactly a writing class either, but it's about using nature journaling as a process to help us repopulate the landscape around us with stories. Because all of our voices matter, and you are a part of this story. Somewhere on this page, there's a little form where you can enter your email address. So if the class sounds interesting to you, then enter your email in that form, and I'll send an email in the next few days when registration opens. Spots will be limited, but if you enter your address, then you'll be the first to know. So like I've said, I've never taught a class specifically focused on this topic before, so this is a bit of an experiment. It will be a co-creation between myself and a small group of students. and it'll be highly interactive. So I'll have the chance to answer all the questions that you want the answers to. So there are a lot of free nature journaling resources out there right now, which is great. But if you want a mentor or a guide to help lead you from where you are now, to help you develop a deeper connection with nature and deeper sense of place, then this course might be a good option for you. I'll help you find your growth edges and help you to stretch through them. So what is the first step that we can take toward re-story-ation? Well, before we can share our stories with other people, we need to have some stories to tell. So here's an activity that you can do. And we really need to start with gratitude. Gratitude for the creatures around us and the places around us. And approaching it with a mindset of gratitude can really help us to focus on noticing all of the stories that are happening around us and notice them for what they are. Because this course isn't just about nature journaling as observing the creatures around us as almost these static museum objects, but as the living creatures and living systems that they are, these moments, these stories happening in time. And it's also important to start with gratitude for people, especially the people who are the original inhabitants of the place where you live. So if you don't know who they are, then that's really important to know. So where I live in upstate New York, this is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee people, also known as the Iroquois, who still live here. And something from their culture is called the Thanksgiving Address. Now, this is pretty widely known, so I think it's okay to share it here. It's not a private piece of knowledge. But the Thanksgiving Address is something that they use to begin every gathering. It starts with acknowledging and giving thanks for all of these different categories of things in nature. It starts with people, for Mother Earth, and then the waters, and on through the fish, the plants, the medicine plants, the food plants, the animals, the trees, the birds, the wind and clouds, the sun, the moon, the stars, our ancestors, and the connection between all things. It's sort of like an indigenous taxonomy, a catalog of the diversity of life. But here, thinking in terms of re-story-ation, I like to think of it as we're giving thanks. This is sort of like our roll call, our cast of characters. And compelling characters are at the heart of any good story. So let's get to know them. Who are the characters who share the places where we live? So I invite you to find a spot within 5 minutes of your front door, someplace close that you can return to again and again. So visit there for at least 5 to 10 minutes. Observe with all 5 of your senses to what is happening around you. Don't try to focus too hard. Just be relaxed and open and listen. Now, in your nature journal, or on a piece of paper if you don't have a nature journal yet, write or sketch something for each one of the categories that I just mentioned. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It could just be a few words or a little doodle. But what do you notice? And what are you curious about? What do your observations make you think about? And how do you feel? This exercise will help you begin with a mindset of gratitude and appreciation, which creates a shortcut to help you feel a sense of belonging and a sense of place. It'll help you to notice that even when it doesn't seem like there's very much happening around us, there is so much happening. And you don't need to know the names of the species you journal about, you just have to notice their presence. Going through these categories and giving thanks will also help us expand our awareness, so that the next time we're there, we notice even more. And it sets the foundation so that when we return to this place in the future, we'll get to observe how these creatures and how these aspects of nature have changed. We'll get to know these things even more deeply and build our connection. Eventually, Your mental map of the landscape will be overlaid with memories of all these different stories that you've observed there and how they are interconnected. You'll be able to find what's special about the place you're in right now. It doesn't need to be wilderness or a national park. So by the end of the course, you'll have a journal full of memories and stories and the confidence to continue your nature journal practice with a supportive community. We'll be making nature journals that are real. They're not polished or perfect, but where your observations and thinking are happening in real time on the page. Because while you're sitting there worrying about whether to put pen to paper because you're afraid it's not going to be good enough, so much of life is passing you by. Memories that will be forgotten and not recorded, stories that will never be told. What you might have never even noticed, the things that have escaped your attention, could become a special memory that you'll treasure forever. And each one of those little moments deepens your connection to nature a little bit more. So if this all sounds interesting to you, drop your email in the form. Registration will open in a couple days. The course will start on October 4th and take place every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time until November 8th. And the course will cost $197. And again, this isn't just a course where you get some pre-recorded videos. It'll be live, it'll be interactive, and I'll be here to guide you and mentor you through your exploration. If you decide for any reason that this course is not a good fit for you, I'll give you a 100% refund within the first 2 weeks. So if this sounds like fun, if you'd like to come on this journey with me, keep an eye out for the registration email coming in the next couple days. And Grace is excited about it too. But if not, then I hope that you still learned something valuable from this lesson in this video that can give a new dimension to your nature journaling practice and help you think about how your individual practice connects to the bigger picture. That we're all working together to make the world a better place. Thanks for watching!